Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Cavalier Family Show. Before we actually start anything out, such as the introductions and stuff, I just would like to thank all the veterans out there, whether if you're active, military, or retired. Unless if you're a Marine, then as my godfather slash uncle has always said, once a Marine, always Marine, never retire. So would like to thank all of you veterans out there and active and non-active military personnel. And with that, of course, would like to start off with the introduction as usual. And as some of you know, is that we are an independent studio, and on the show we will be discussing life entertainment from the big screen to the small screen, and your favorite independent films, TV shows, cartoons, video games. We would also like to thank Kevin Holmes, who did the intro and outro video, along with Justin Dott, who's created many of the musical elements, as well as you can see, Justin is with us again, and we'll go ahead and do a little intro with him. The other update, as far as all updates go, currently right now we do have a Cavalier Family shop where we do have shirts, coffee mugs, sweaters, sweatpants, blankets, and much, much more. This also includes, of course, sweatpants too during the cold months, sweaters as well, along with, of course, leggings too. So you have all of that. And of course, the designs for the show, as some of you may have seen, which is the moon design, inspired by 1982's E.T., as well as, ironically, there was an inspiration through MASH. So there is a military-based theme shirt in there for the Cavalier family, as all proceeds go to independent filming, podcasting, anything. Because we want to get our word out there, and we want to do what makes us happy and be able to create an environment and work area where we get paid for what we love to do. And speaking of getting paid for what we love to do, as you can see, we have our special guest Justin on the show with us again today, and at this point Justin is more like our third co-host as well. So Justin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thanks for asking. And who gets paid for doing what they love?
Well, that's what we're trying to do, right?
Right. That's the dream.
That is the dream that all of us want to be able to do in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man.
So what's new? Anything new?
Tons, man. Tons. The hype train has officially left the station for my new album that I've been working on for the last almost 7 months. I've been doing a lot of promotion on all the social media. I've got another interview lined up right after this for a radio show. Talk a little bit about that later. But yeah, man, it's the eve before my album release. So big stuff coming out.
Yeah, I've been extremely busy too. We're getting set to go on vacation and everything. And you may know this, but unfortunately, a lot of the viewers don't know this. Unfortunately, this will be our last live show. And our last live show, ironically, is with our first guest that we had in the beginning. So there you go. It's kind of a beautiful storytelling there. But yeah, this will be our last live show only because of the fact that we pay a third party to go ahead and stream on all social platforms, such as Facebook, such as Twitter, and YouTube as well, all at once. Unfortunately, with being an independent studio, we don't get funds in that often, which is why we can't stress enough about visiting the show to show support there. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because that's where the funds are generating, and where those funds are being used are things like this. So again, from this point forward, going forward, everything will be pre-shot, pre-recorded, so then that way we can upload it, and it can only be found from this point, from after this point, on our YouTube channel. So if you like this show, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, because all new videos will be uploaded every Thursday. It will be uploaded during an earlier time period as well, because we do know that 7:45, 8:45 people are winding down to relax. So at least you have the full length of that. So I guess that is a little sly into updates as well. But let's get to the meat of the situation. Let's get to the point of why you are here, Justin, and let's go ahead and talk about that album that's actually going to be debuting, that's launching tomorrow. So I know the last time that we spoke, you were still within that raw process, trying to create the music, trying to partner up with the studio and everything. What's the update on that so far?
A lot of updates, actually, man. So I'm signed to a fantastic record label called Retro Synth Records. I'm on a subsidiary of it called Synthetics. So they are helping me tremendously get the word out on this album. Going to be on a couple of albums as well that have a bunch of other artists from the record label on it, to kind of highlight and maybe get some different listeners and ears that may not have heard my stuff before on it as well, from like other fans. So right after this is done as well, I've got a really cool interview with a online radio station that specializes in the kind of music I create, which is called synthwave music, which is really kind of a throwback to the 80s nostalgia vibes to it. My stuff is a little bit different than like your everyday synthwave, in the sense that I kind of add like orchestration and a lot of symphonic elements to it, kind of spacey vibe to it as well. And I'm big on storytelling. So my stuff is synthwave, but there's also a lot of other elements to it as well. So it's kind of hard to kind of really pigeonhole exactly what my genre is, which is kind of what I was trying to do with this album. So since we last spoke about the album, the first podcast I was on, I was in the mixing stages of the album with my good friend Christopher Payne, who's been absolutely incredible at making this album sound just chef's kiss amazing. And I've had the album for a little over 2 weeks, and I've just been walking around the city and listening to it and just kind of taking it all in. And any kind of adjustments I had along the way for him, he listened to, adjusted, gave me tips. And sometimes if I wanted something adjusted and it probably wouldn't have been the best idea for the album, he'd be absolutely, 100% truthful about it and let me know like, hey, we can do that, but, might peak a little bit in the headphones and sound a little bit muddy here and there. And then he also taught me along the way on how to mix and, what he was doing. So hopefully, next album or the album after that, I can do it all myself, which is, really cool of the guy absolutely. That's making the money off of mix and mastering to be able to do is, tell me how to do it myself, which is, that's awesome. So, I'm really excited to be part of the record label. And the guys that own the record label, they're in their own group called Neutron Dreams. They just released an album a couple weeks ago that's absolutely awesome too. So yeah, I'm excited, man. We're this close to being released. I put out a couple of teasers on my social media pages. Released 3 tracks from the album. There's 12 on it total, and I also just now started putting up the story on my social media pages, and I've got half the story up right now. Gonna put the other half up before midnight tonight. So anyone that's interested in knowing a little bit more about the story of the album can read along with each chapter, which is equates to each song that's on there. So,
well, that's awesome.
Lots of stuff.
Well, that's awesome. And before we get to like the surreal question, right? Like how you feel and how everything. I know there's got to be some challenges that have come along between when we last spoke and until now. I mean, when we last spoke, obviously, there was a little bit of challenges here and there. But has there been any challenges since then? New ones that came up? I know you talked about how synchronizing and adding more things to music. Is there, when finalizing the actual album itself, was there anything specific that you can think of that you just went back to, like that song is not finished, that song's not finished, that song's not finished, and just it ate you away? Was there anything in that side?
Yeah, there's actually 2 stories to that question. Number one is there was a song that I just got stuck on. Once I got the album fully completed, before it was mixed and mastered, I was just listening to it front to back and just making sure that it made complete sense as a complete story to me and it flowed well. And the most challenging part for me with creating this album was creating a track list that made sense, that the story made sense from beginning to end. And there was just one song that I kept going back to, and I'm like, this song just isn't at the level that the rest of the songs are. It almost like takes you on this emotional journey, and then it kind of deflates on this one song, and I'm trying to figure out what I need to do. And I remember just going probably 2 weeks straight trying to figure out all these different things to work on this song and try and make it pop more. And I was adding and adding and adding. And finally it got to a point where I didn't even recognize the song anymore. And I was like, well, I still hate this. So maybe I'll just delete it from the album. You know, maybe it just doesn't fit and it's going to be an 11-track album. And so finally I deleted the piano track from it. And I pressed play, and I was trying to think of maybe if there was something else I could put in the piano's place, because for me, the piano just didn't mesh with the overall sound of it. And all of a sudden, when I took the piano track out of it and I started playing it, I was like, I actually really like this. Like, it took all the symphony elements of it and brought it like up front and made it sound a lot more epic, like without the actual piano track, because it's an epic song, but then I feel like the piano was kind of a little bit, it was pretty, but it was bringing down like the excited part of the song.
Right.
So as soon as I took that out, I was like, man, this sounds like what quality movie soundtrack type of track. And so finally I took that out, and then all of a sudden I just started flipping through my keyboard and looking for like just kind of really weird ear-catching sounds that kind of come out of left field. And I found this one sound that kind of sounded like a 50s UFO like movie kind of sound to it.
Okay.
And I was like, let me just play around with this and try it. And I added it to like the very end of the song, the last minute or so of the song. And I was like, man, this sounds either it's going to be 100% stupid and ridiculous or it's going to sound awesome. And so I played it, I recorded it, and I played it back, and I was like, sounds awesome. I love it. So, and then when I finally sent it over to Chris and he mixed it, bless him, he already mixed like the song like 3 different times. I love the guy, because I'm so difficult when it comes to like a song. I'll be like, hey, so you know that song I sent you? I changed like 7 different things on it. So can you go ahead and mix that again from scratch, please? Sorry. And that's the story of this entire album. And so finally I sent it to him, he mixed it, sent it back to me, and man, it became like one of my favorite songs. So it's funny that the song almost, you know, got kicked to the curb, and now it's one of my top songs on the album. And you know, if anybody does end up listening to the album, it's a song called "Here at the End of All Things." It's the second to last track on the album, and it turned out really good, I think.
Well, good. That sounds amazing. Now, I did thanks to you, I did have a chance to listen to some of the songs and stuff like that, and it sounds beautifully. And between point A of starting, right, you get that idea, to tomorrow. I mean, I guess technically tomorrow's the release. So when you finally say, you know what, I am done, now we just have to wait to the release. So at that point, to the beginning, from the beginning, how long did it take you all together?
So if we count tomorrow as release day, about close to 7 months
Okay.
from the start of the recording process. But the idea for this album has been kicking in my head since the beginning of the year.
Right.
I just didn't have, and I think we spoke about this on my first podcast with you, is I didn't have the necessary tools to make it. You know, I made a couple of demos strictly on my iPhone on GarageBand, and this is the album that I've wanted to make. And since I've been back to work and I'm not furloughed anymore, I'm getting paychecks and things like that, I can afford finally some nice things to record and equipment that I really needed to finish this album. And once I got all those elements involved in it, I started recording it about 7 months ago. And it took a while. It took a while because I could only record it after work. You know, I still got a full-time job, and I'm working about 50 hours a week right now. And so I do my daytime job. Lucky enough to have a daytime job that I love, you know, just as much as I love creating music. And then I get off work, you know, close to 10 to midnight sometimes. And here I am, plugging away at creating an album from, I would say, 12:30 a.m. until sometimes 4 or 5 in the morning, just to get back to work again at 10 o'clock. So
Wow.
it was a rough 7 months, man. But I think it paid off. I don't want to go into it too much because it is in my interview that's going to be on Night Ride FM after this. But I promised myself with this album that I would take my time. I get excited when I make new music, and a fault of mine is I create something and I'm like, I want the world to hear it, and then I just like shove it out there before I even have a chance to like make it sound great. I'm like, I get creative and I'm like, oh, cool, this is cool, everybody will love this, and then throw it out into the world. Where this time I was like, all right, slow your roll, Justin, like really focus on this, make it sound good, and pop it out there. And that was my promise to myself right at the beginning of this. So, all things included, it was almost a year in the making from very start of the concept.
And see, that kind of like goes in the lines of COVID and during the whole pandemic. And, that's kind of where I was able to fully write the script I wanted to do for the movie. And that's where like everything on my end started to snowball as well, as because we had the opportunity to have that time to actually work on things that we were passionate about. So even if it took you 7 months, that's still the 7 months that you're truly passionate and love for the project itself. And in reality, I mean, that's really what we should be doing, right? Is
Yeah.
working for basically yourself and doing what you love. I mean, it's everybody's creative in their own way and they just have to find it. Now, when this album is released though, I do have to ask, do you have, or how would you feel, because of course growing up and being in like college and everything, like you go to the clubs and everything like that. Now this is hypothetically, but what would you do, or what would you think, let's say if somebody took like a piece of your work and played it at a club, played it over at EDC down here in Orlando? Like I guess this kind of goes into the surreal aspect of the question as well. Like, if you think of now, how surreal is it for you? And then in the future, how would that be? Because to me, I think that would be awesome. Like, just listening to music and then hear like the heart part of your actual album, be like, I know that guy.
Yeah. So do you mean like a remix, or are you talking about like sampling of a song, or just like my song outright playing somewhere in a club?
Well, I know like there's legality things to it too. So
Sure.
if you're having fun at a club and then all of a sudden you hear like a remix version, I guess, of your thing.
It would be cool as long as I get I'm the kind of artist where I like getting paid in credit.
Right.
I mean, as long as I'm credited for my work,
Hmm.
then absolutely I'd be very cool with it. But if I was like just at a club somewhere and all of a sudden a remix of my song comes on that I knew nothing about and there was no name drop on it, then I'd be a little
Having
bit,
an issue.
upset about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because it's important, for independent artists in general, those of us that aren't Beyonce is making, millions of dollars off of music. It's like the stuff that we create, it's really important that we have the credit for what we create. And
Right.
that goes for anybody, even Beyonce, but for us it's especially important in the sense that, we don't make a lot to begin with. This isn't our number one job. And this isn't our number one moneymaker. So I let a lot of people use like my music so far. I've got a good friend of mine that is a press person for MMA fighting,
Hmm.
and he recently used one of my tracks for his videos, which
Hmm.
turned out friggin' awesome. But he asked me ahead of time. He was like, "Hey man, like I feel like your song would be really awesome in this video. Do you mind if I use it? Like I'll put something together and then I'll send it to
Yeah.
you, show it to you, and you can give me the yes or no." He sent it to me. I was like, "Yeah, man, absolutely. That works beautifully together." But I was like, just pop my name at the end of it, and let people know where to find me. So as like an independent artist, I don't ask a lot for the use of my stuff, just permission and name credit. So as long as I get those things involved in it, man, I think that'd be great. I think if I was at a club and then I heard my song being remixed all of a sudden, at first I'd be confused because I'd be like, where the hell did this guy hear my music? But second, I'd be excited because I was like, all these people are now hearing my song.
Yep.
And then somebody liked it enough to remix it, which again would be awesome. But I would just be sitting there waiting for the that was To the Stars We Return. A little credit at the end there, and that'd be, we're all good.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of is important too, which I when asking that, I wasn't really knowing how important that question is, but now we can see and how important that question is, just because it shows how independent individuals such as you, such as me, like how we're able to produce, how much work it actually goes into it when we don't have a major corporation behind us. And with that too, of course, you have your guys too with the studio who's helping with the marketing on aspect and stuff like that. But it's just, I guess on my end, it's one of those things like if I made a movie and if somebody is playing it in the theaters, like it'd be just a surreal moment altogether. And with that, of course, it kind of begs a question like, how surreal is it right now knowing that your album's going to drop tomorrow, that you're doing this, that you're doing of course, the FM show after this? Like, now your 7 months is come to a point where everything is taken into effect. And how does that feel?
It feels good, but at the same time, it feels kind of bitter. I'd say bittersweet because like I've been working on this for so long and I've been so immersed in it that it's almost sad that it's coming to the point where it's like now you go free into the world, and do your thing. It's a little nerve-wracking and I'm a little anxious because I don't know what the results are going to be. I don't know what people are going to think about it. And for being, like you said, being a creator, it's you. People don't realize like how much of your self you put into like your creations and how much time you put into your creations. And with the limited resources that we have as independent artists as well, it takes a lot of money, our own energy, our own time. And we do it because we love it. And the one thing that I want more than anything on releasing this album is hopefully people feel the way that I felt making it. They pick up on the feelings of each song and what it means and either the feelings of loneliness or isolation and all the different things that go into the songs. Just hope somebody can relate to it and enjoy it, when they listen to it. And that to me is much more payment, having one person reach out to me and say like, man, that album like really spoke to me. And, I love it. That is worth more to me than like, $100,000 in sales or anything like that. So I'm anxious. I'm excited. I'm a little bit sad that it's completed and out of my hands and into the rest of the world's hands. There's a bunch of different feelings, but I'm mainly excited because there's a lot of things. I've been making music since I was 15 years old. And this is the first time that I've had, a label backing me. And this is the first time that I've had, people picking up on it and, having excitement around it and being able to do things like these podcasts and interviews and stuff like that. All that's very exciting to me. And, to be able to have this podcast and, the radio show afterwards, but the night before my album comes out is like a godsend because, it drums up the hype, it gets the attention and, things that are much needed for somebody that doesn't have like money for billboards and commercials and, things like that. So yeah, it's exciting, man. And, long story short, it's very exciting. It's very nerve wracking at the same time. So ask me again in a week and we'll see.
Well, I do know one word that I can say that you'd probably agree with this whole entire process. And you brought up the fact of feeling bittersweet, but I also feel like it's accomplished too. Like you have that sense of calming or relaxation because you feel accomplished. You set a goal, you met that goal, and now it's just basking in everything that you've accomplished in general and just seeing where it goes from here. It's that feeling of serenity.
Like Thanos. He goes back to the farm at the end.
Except that I don't think you live on a farm.
No,
from my understanding.
Far from
it. You don't have like a half burnt arm. You didn't kill half of the universe, so I think you're doing better off. Really.
So basically, you're saying nothing like Thanos. No, you're right though. It is a sense of accomplishment, but I've already got my little party for myself set up. I'm right now downloading my Grand Theft Auto Definitive Edition on PS5. So after the radio show tonight, I'm gonna just sit back with my honey roasted peanuts and play a little bit of Grand Theft Auto.
Play a little bit of Grand Theft Auto, maybe some Phil Collins in the background, and there we go.
Perfect.
Well, with that, and before we carry on to, of course, where people can buy the album, see the album, check out the album, and much more information on that, you actually provided us with a little sample, right?
Yeah, it's basically a little sneak peek of the album. It's the album in its entirety in 3-minute form. So about 15-second clips of each song, just so people can get an idea of what the music sounds like and the journey that they're about to embark on.
Well, fantastic. So let's grab our virtual hands right now and let's take that journey.
Let's go.
And there you have it.
There
Sounds
it
great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's exciting, man. Just watching that little preview again, I'm excited. I'm ready for this thing to come out, and it's going to be out on all streaming platforms too. So every way you can think of it, you can find it. So
well, that's good, because it brings us to the next question, right? So where can you find it? Where can you purchase it? Where can you listen to it? And where can they follow you for any updates as well? Just let them have it. Give them all the information.
Absolutely. So, as an independent artist, the best way you can possibly support is to purchase the album on Bandcamp. So if you purchase it on Bandcamp, you can go to tothestarswereturn.bandcamp.com. The album is available for pre-purchase right now. If you pre-purchase it, you do get a downloadable version of 3 songs. And then you'll get the rest of the album at midnight as soon as it comes out. If you have iTunes or you're an Apple user, you can pre-purchase the album on iTunes as well. Just search To the Stars We Return on iTunes in the search engine, and it'll pop up. You can pre-purchase it as well. Or if you're more into streaming as well, you can do that, and you can stream it on Spotify, on Apple Music, on Amazon Music, all of them. So it'll be on every single streaming platform. You can even look at YouTube. YouTube will have every single song up as well. Just search To the Stars We Return on any of those search engines, and it will be available for you to stream and jam out to. If you want to look me up on social media, you can look me up on Facebook. On Facebook, just search To the Stars We Return. And I just started a Instagram page against my own old man ethics. And that Instagram is at I am To the Stars We Return, no spaces. So I am To the Stars We Return. So look me up on Instagram, Facebook. Feel free to message me. Let me know what you think when you listen to the album. I take all sorts of criticisms. If you love it, tell me you love it. If you hate it, tell me you hate it. Tell me why you hate it, though, so I can work on bettering myself for the future. I love getting any kind of feedback on my music, because the way that I see it as an artist is if you come out at the top and you're perfect and you do everything right the first time, what's the reason to make something else? So, you got to learn, got to grow. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So make sure to reach out to me after you hear it. Let me know what you think. And if you do plan on checking it out and purchasing it, thank you so much. I do this for the love of it, and I hope you love it too.
Perfect. And since we've reached To the Stars, and before we go back in time, go ahead and let everyone know where they can find you tonight after the show as well.
Absolutely. So directly after this show, in about 40 minutes, 9 p.m., I will be doing a exclusive interview with Night Ride FM. So they're going to be doing an interview, artist spotlight with me. And they're going to be debuting some of the songs on my album as well that haven't even been heard or released yet. So make sure you tune in if you want a little sneak peek before it is released at midnight tonight. Tune into that. All you have to do is type in nightride.fm. And as soon as it pops up, there's a little play button at the very top of the website. Press that and it'll go live and you can check it out. It's going to be really cool. So interview was awesome. And the host, Karen, she is amazing as well. So tune in for that and check out some new tunes.
Awesome. So with that in mind, of course, visit all of To the Stars We Return, whether it be Instagram, whether it be Bandcamp, or even tonight on the FM radio show. And now, since we came back from the stars, time to go back in time. So let's do it. And as you can see there, our theme for this show is actually picked by Justin himself, which was 1982. And with that year, of course, from my understanding, is it was the year that you were born, right?
Yep, 1982, October 28th. So birthday just passed, and reaching that 40 mark. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, recently we had TJ with us as well as, and he picked 1989, which was his birth year as well as my birth year. So, that's
Nice.
the main theme so far. So that's fantastic. And of course, as part of Back in Time, what we do here is we always talk about the top 5 TV shows, cartoons, the toys. I know sometimes if it's the 80s or 90s specifically, sometimes we have to go with music, and that's only because the search for the top toys for that specific year is too broad because you always find clips, links for 1980s, 1990s. And then, of course, we have the 1982 movies as well for the top 5 grossing movies of that year. So, with that in mind, I'll leave it up to the guest of the show. Justin, would you like me to go first, sir, or would you like to go first?
I'll let you go for it.
Well, thank you. Appreciate
Absolutely.
that. So right now, our first thing on the list are the top 5 TV shows, which was actually done by ClassicTV.com. That was the source. And the first one is 60 Minutes. Usually I don't put shows like 60 Minutes on here or football, only because like 60 Minutes is kind of like a news, but it's also interviews as well. So I kind of gave it the benefit of doubt, unlike football, which you have Monday night, Sunday night, Friday night, sometimes Thursday night. So it's like, it's not an actual, it's a TV show. Yes, it is sports, but it doesn't give enough credit for other TV shows. Like for an example, our number 2 was Dallas. Number 3 was MASH. Number 4 was Magnum Pi, and number 5 was Dynasty. And with all of that, I do remember a little bit of Magnum Pi. Didn't watch a lot of the TV show back then. I mean, I'm not saying back then like 1982 because I wasn't born yet, but growing up, I didn't have the opportunity to watch Magnum Pi a little bit. But I also saw some episodes of MASH too. Being younger and seeing it on the TV show. Not much Dallas or Dynasty, and of course 60 Minutes is still going on, so there's that.
Yeah. Dallas, fun story about Dallas, actually. They had the big Who Shot JR cliffhanger on Dallas, which was trying to figure out who shot one of the main characters in the show. And it was like a season-ending cliffhanger. And the debut and finding out of who did shoot JR was happening the day I was born. And everyone in the hospital was more concerned about who shot JR than me being born. So my parents were excited I was being born, but all the doctors and everybody in the hospital were glued to their TVs to find out this big mystery. So
well, we're glad that you're born. I just want to throw that out there, and we're happy that you're born as well.
My mom just commented. She said I was watching Dallas while in labor with Justin. So
there you go. I mean,
yeah, she was involved with it too.
I mean, there you go. I mean, it seems like the show of that year, right?
Yeah.
Like it just seems like one of the biggest shows, and unfortunately, like Magnum Pi, of course, was redone. It was rebooted, which, if you don't know what the difference between reboot and remake is remake is basically taking the same exact story, same exact premise, and they're just remaking it. A reboot is taking the likeness of it. So, for an example, the not the Ghostbusters that is coming forward, but within I think a couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, right around Thanksgiving.
Yep. So not this coming Ghostbusters, but the Ghostbusters before that, which is an all-female cast, that's considered a reboot and not a remake. There's certain elements that makes it like from the original, but altogether it's a reboot because there's different elements to it. So that's a difference. So I know Magnum Pi, I don't know if it was a reboot or a remake, but a lot of these older shows, they are being redone as well. At one point, I thought I heard a rumor that MASH was actually going to get its fair share of a remake or reboot as well.
Interesting.
So, I mean, there's that. I don't know how crucial or like how spot on that information is. Otherwise, I would confirm it. Yeah. But it's a rumor. It is a rumor.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Hollywood is known to be skimming and running out of ideas these days. So anything's on the table.
And see, that's why we're here, right? Making up our
Right.
own stories, making up our own
That's
destiny.
it.
Like, there you go. All right, my friend, you want to take it away with the next one?
Sure. So we've got the top cartoons. So this is not an exact list. So we went by the number of seasons, not the number of like views and top views. So we've got Pac-Man, which, man, I am a huge Pac-Man gamer. I was actually just playing before it came on, and I downloaded a version of it on PlayStation, and I love Pac-Man. Never saw the cartoon. No, never. I knew there was a cartoon, but I've never seen it. There was 44 episodes of Pac-Man. We had Little Rascals, the animated series, that had 35 episodes. We had Mork and Mindy, the animated series, which had 26 episodes. Mork and Mindy, Laverne and Shirley, Fawn's Hour animated series. That's a lot. Had
That is a
26
lot.
episodes. And then Meatballs and Spaghetti, which had 25 episodes. Since I was born in this year, this wasn't anything that I would watch, or if I did watch it, clearly I don't remember it happening. Yeah, the Mork and Mindy. It seems like with Mork and Mindy, Little Rascals, there's a kind of pattern there of remaking old TV shows and making them cartoons for kids that year.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the Little Rascals, the black and white ones?
I watched like the original series, yeah, like the live action black and white series, and then I've also watched the Little Rascals movies that came out. I think those were in the 90s or
Early 2000s, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So I remember those, and I remember the show, but I don't recall a cartoon about it.
Yeah, Little Rascals was one of those things that they could easily get away with back in the day, but now they couldn't make the stories back then today, basically. Just like Blazing Saddles. Like I remember there was an episode, and I believe it was Buckwheat, wasn't it, that had his uncle come from Africa. Yeah,
sounds about right.
yeah, and like that was one of my favorite episodes growing up because it was just funny.
Yeah,
it was just humorous, and that's all that the old black and white versions were just humorous. But the depiction of everybody is technically what they, and I guess some story elements they would kind of go away from as far as today goes. But I remember being at my grandmother's, popping out that VHS, putting in the black and white, and just laughing the whole entire time because it's fun.
Yeah.
It was just humorous. And then, of course, Mork and Minnie, you had Robin Williams, which, I mean, and everyone else knows who watched the show. Like, I love Robin Williams. Like, he is an inspiration. I mean, just not Aladdin. That was my first introduction. But, of course, Stoutfire. Then you had Dead Poets Society. Then you had Good Will Hunting. And then you had Death to Smoochie. And then, of course, you had the other movies like, I think it was Son-in-Law, wasn't it? No, that is with a different actor that I'm thinking of. But you had RV, and then you had the one where he's the priest as well.
Yeah, he did comedy and drama really well.
Yeah.
I mean, he was one of those versatile actors. You actually felt for him. Like movies like Jack and things like that, where there's comedy elements, but there was also a lot of drama in it. He did get it both.
Patch Adams.
Yep. Another great one.
Oh, that was another great one. Yeah, I don't know Meatballs and Spaghetti, though. I mean, I know the food, and I know Meatball from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. But, I mean, that's as far as I get with that. I don't honestly remember that one.
It does not ring a bell in the slightest.
I mean, with Pac-Man, I mean, who can't think of Pac-Man? One of the designs that I was trying to create was Pac-Man themed for the show for you, because I know you're talking about how much you love Pac-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, you know what, I'll give him one. I'll just go ahead and design something for Justin, and it was going to be Pac-Man related. Unfortunately, though, the font itself costs pretty hefty actually to utilize the font itself, and especially to like resell it and everything. So it's just one of those things that we kind of have to backtrack on, wait until we get funding, which, by the way, those who are watching, link is in the description below to go ahead and show the support with the merchandise. So there you go. So let's go ahead and jump to our next one, which was the top toys. Now, this one came from two sources. The top 5 toys came from peoplehistory.com. Everything everything 80s podcast. With this one, it's very similar to it, like the 1980s, 1990s. It's really hard to find a direct list that says, number one was this, number two was this, number three was this. So basically, we went by popularity. And of course, in the year, we had Dungeons and Dragons, G.I. Joe, the aircraft carrier. So again, couldn't find the actual list, but there's popularity in those. So number one, though, there was a number one, and that was a BMX bike, ironically enough. So BMX bike was number one. Number two was a glowworm, which, glowworm has a different phrasing today than it did back then. Number three was Barbie Dream House, and it was apparently a massive 4 feet by 3 feet wide. Number four, one of everyone's favorite, an Atari. And number five, My Little Pony. So, which the My Little Pony, for those who have a daughter during this time, if you go on Netflix, there's a My Little Pony cartoon. She watches that thing 2 to 3 times a day. There's a song in there that is so catchy that it's just going to be, and I was going to sing it. The phrasing is, majority of the time was, it's going to be my day. It's going to be my day. So whenever you hear that and you hear the tune, it gets stuck in your head instantly. And weirdly enough, it is Vanessa Hudgens. It is, I forgot his name, but is the guy who played in Sonic, the live action Sonic, as well as who played Cyclops in X-Men.
In the movie?
Yep. So he plays one of the horses as well. And then, and I forgot this guy's name too. I think its last name is like Chen. He's the guy who played the in Hangover 1, 2, and 3. Who got stuck in? Yeah,
Mr. Chow.
Chow. Yeah, Chow. And obviously, to his credit, he's played a lot of movies since then. But he actually plays the voice of one of the horses, which I didn't really catch it until my wife pointed it out. His horse ends up becoming a dictator as well. So it's one of those movies though that you just watch and the songs just, they stick to you. They really do stick to you.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then of course you have the Atari. Everybody knows the Atari. Everybody's loved the Atari. And Pong. And then you have I unfortunately didn't have the experience to play on Atari, but I know you have.
Yeah, you had the worst video game in history on Atari. And there's an there you go, E.T. Have you seen the documentary on that game?
The fact that there is a location in the desert in the U.S. I think it's like Arizona, isn't it? Where it's just a massive hole and it's nothing but the E.T. video games.
It's a mass grave of Atari E.T. games in the middle of the desert. They wanted to erase that game from history. It is that bad. The problem with the game was that it wasn't a game. It was like a rough draft of a game. And B, it just didn't work. There was no point to it. You would fall in a hole and you get stuck, and then you just couldn't restart the game. Like you couldn't do anything. You just got stuck in the hole, and that was that. Game over. You wouldn't die. You wouldn't move on. So there was a lot of things broken with that game, and it was awful. There's a lot of hype behind it before it came out. So I hear, and just because of the movie alone, which we'll get into pretty soon here, but. Atari, like there were some great games. I actually have an Atari. You know how they re-released all like the old systems as like a USB port? I have the Atari that I play now, and sometimes nostalgia doesn't really live up to what you remember. Because I play it now and I'm like, man, like I can play like each game for maybe 5 minutes and I'm like, oh god, I can't do it. There's just games were pretty friggin' challenging back then, man. I mean, limited things that you could even do in the game, but you had 3 chances at beating the entire game. You could be playing it for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and you're almost near the end of the game, and then you die, and then you have to start all over again. So I don't have the patience for games with no save points.
It is home though to the very first game that has an Easter egg in it. That of course was in the Ready Player One movie as well. I forget the name of the game, but Atari is the first system that has an Easter egg to it.
That's cool.
Adventure. That's what it's called. Adventure actually has the first Easter egg where you go into like a dark room and apparently there's a key, and if you take it to the very beginning of the game, of course this is basing everything off of the movie, so I could be completely wrong or I could be completely right. Don't know. You take it to the very beginning, and then if you go past the start point, there's a little bit of. Have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
So yeah, you know that the name of the creator is right there. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then, of course, you have the Bmx Bike, which if you owned a Bmx Bike, you basically busted your ass every single time, because if you're anybody like me, I would try to be doing tricks majority of the time, going up mud hills or going up like dirt hills and trying to jump that thing and trying to do tricks and stuff. And especially if you had the little what's it, spokes, right, if I'm saying it correctly, like on the sides, and then you have your friends ride it, and then jokingly you try to run them into a tree. Or maybe it was just me, I don't know, it could have been that friend.
My story with BMX Bike is my dad spent hours and probably days building a ramp for me, because I always wanted a ramp, and I'm like, I want to jump off a ramp, like build a ramp for me, Dad. So he spent all this time building a ramp for me, and we went like across the street to this open field, and I went like yards down the road, ready to pick up some speed and go flying off the ramp and be a superstar. So first jump on the ramp, sit on the bike, start pedaling, go full speed towards the ramp, get up the ramp, boom, flat on my face. Bike goes flying up in the air, lands on me. I start crying. I grab the handlebars. I'm dragging the bike behind me, and I'm like, I don't want this stupid ramp. Never used it again.
Well, I mean, it's an adventure, right? It's a story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like
I remember it to this day, and that's which is funny, because it's probably maybe 9-10 years old, somewhere around there.
And the thing is too is like kids these days, they're all on the screens, they're all inside, they're all iPads, stuff like that. When there's kids playing outside. Like I can literally go outside in the middle of the day and see kids playing. But we also live in a complex where it's condominium, so it's like a parking lot. But in our day, it was nothing practically but playing outside. Like my mom limited me to playing video games maybe every day for just an hour, and that was it. Other than that, you go play outside or you find something to do. Like we didn't have iPads, we didn't have any of that stuff that the kids have today.
Yeah, I didn't even have AOL until I was in middle school. So, and that AOL was paid by the minute. You had to pay for minutes to go online back then. And then your mom picked up the phone, and then it was all over.
Ruined everything.
Yeah, I was right in the middle of like chatting with a girl, age, sex, location, and then all of a sudden my mom picks up the phone, and there it goes, goodbye, and then gone. She's gone forever.
And then you have that middle school moment of no.
Ma, I said don't pick up the phone, Ma. Yeah,
exactly.
Good times.
Then, or the times that you pick up the phone and like you contact or you call somebody and you're trying to be all secretive, and then you can hear the phone get picked up on the other line, and it's like very, very quiet, but you can kind of hear like breathing on the other end. It's like, Mom? Dad? Oh, I'm sorry, honey. I didn't realize that you're on the phone. Yeah. How long have you been on here? Oh, just a couple of minutes. How long? 5 minutes? That's not a couple of minutes. That's 5 minutes.
Sneeze. Yeah. I mean, later on in life, I got my own phone line. Excuse me. There we go. I had my own phone line. I had my own answering machine. And I remember, we all recorded our own little answering machine messages. Mine was like, my first one was like, hello? Haha, just joking, not really here. I think everybody did that. And then I also recorded spider webs by No Doubt and thought I was really creative, having that as my answering machine message. So yeah, I remember those days well, man. Those were good times. I mean,
But do you
needless to say,
remember? But apparently, according to the chat here, and I know who it is, but I don't want to call her out because I don't know privacy wise. But apparently, you had a glowworm growing up as a kid. Do you remember
yes,
that?
I do remember it. It was in this like almost like it had a nightcap, like a green nightcap on, and if you squeezed it, its cheeks glowed. Glue? It glowed. Cheeks glowed. No, is that would it be glue or glowed?
Glue,
Cheeks
glue.
glued. Yeah, the cheeks glowed, and yeah, I do remember that. Not very well, but I do have a little memory in the back of my mind. My mom, it's my mom that said that. She says you have my permission. But yeah, I do remember that. I do. I don't remember playing with it or anything like that. I just remember it like always being around the house. So yeah, we had a glowworm. Wasn't my favorite toy or anything, but Atari. I think Atari was probably my go-to. But clearly, none of these things was for me in '82 because you wouldn't see me on a BMX bike as a baby. I think glowworm would probably be the one thing that I did, play with when I was in '82 at 1 year old. So I think that's fair to say.
That is fair to say. And from this point forward, since I have permission from your mom, I'm going to start calling her mom. So there you go. Your mom. So with that in mind, we went over the top toys. We went over the top cartoons. We went over the top TV shows. Now it's for the top movies. So do you want to give the lowdown on the top movies here from 1982?
Sure. So we have famous movies. The year of 1982. Famous movies. We have Poltergeist, Annie, Tron, and The Last Unicorn. Poltergeist, as we all know, very, very cursed film. All the way up until years after it was filmed. It was a cursed film. We can get into that in over a whole podcast with the amount of stuff that went on with that. Number one at 359 million, we have E.T., the extraterrestrial. Number two, we have Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, winning at 212 million. Number three, we have Rocky 3 at 124 million. Number four, we have On Golden Pond at 119 million. And then last at number five, we have An Officer and a Gentleman at 128 million.
See, I remember seeing E.T. Obviously growing up, and in all honesty, Steven Spielberg is a phenomenal director altogether, phenomenal writer. And then, of course, I remember Indiana Jones, Rocky 3. I don't remember the other two. Actually, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, what? Why? Especially since where your location is. I didn't actually start watching the Rocky franchise until maybe 2000 and I want to say 14, 15. Now, hear me out. Hear me out before anybody says, what? That's ridiculous. It's been out since the 80s. Right. You are correct. But it's one of those movies, and that's the whole point of the show, is that it never actually struck me to actually watch. And that's the whole point of the show, is being able to read off that list. And that's the whole point of the transition for the next one, is to watch a movie you never saw before and see if you like it. Because you can also support the entertainment industry that way. And you never know, you may like the movies. And from that point forward, I enjoyed the Rocky movies. Still to this day, and I know a couple of people will probably say that's ridiculous. It's not. But my favorite, though, is Rocky 4. And the only reason for that is because of how 80s that movie is.
Very fair.
With the synthesizer, with the computers, with the technology, and just that sequence between Drago and Rocky, like practicing in the snow. And you see him running, and then you see Drago running, and then you see him running. And it's just a climactic song where it's and it's just like it's pinnacle to me. It's pinnacle of 80s movies just because of that sequence.
Was that the movie where he got Polly a robot?
Yeah.
Okay. Happy birthday, Polly. Yeah.
I bake you a cake, Polly. You just get
very extremely 80s. Oh yeah.
Indiana Jones, of course. Though with that is iconic on its own too. Of course, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, which, from my understanding, is Steven Spielberg did the first movie, right? I don't know if he did the other two movies. I can't remember.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. I remember reading an article about the second one, and he actually met his ex-wife on the set of the second movie.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, they I forgot her name in the movie, but his love interest in the second one, Spielberg was married to her for a time.
Okay, yeah, because she was the one that was always screaming all the time.
Annoying,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, like Indy,
Yeah.
don't do that. And
Yeah,
just,
thank God for Short Round for cutting the tension with all that.
oh man, it's him and in the Goonies. He just he's a hero in all of them. So there you go. Well, is there anything else that you wanted? I mean, there's E.T.
Yeah, man, E.T.'s just it's just the movie. That is the movie of my life, man. It's my favorite movie, if I can say so. It means a lot to me because it was the first movie I've ever seen in my life. I don't remember going to the movies to see it, but my parents tell me it's the first movie that I ever laid eyes on. So it was my introduction to movies. Came out the year I was born, and everything about that movie is just perfection, man. And, it's the soundtrack with John Williams, the fact that anybody can watch that movie and enjoy that movie. There's mystery, there's action, there's a little bit of horror, there's suspense, it's emotional, and there's a new twist on like aliens. It's like there's always an alien invasion. They're always coming here to take over the planet and kill us all. Where this was a coming of age tale about a kid and his new best friend that was an alien that was from another planet, and they had this connection. And there's so many like memorable scenes from that movie. The bike chase, of course, the phone home scene, the glowing finger, ouch, the glowing heart, like everything about that. There's nothing in that movie that needs to change, except for when it was re-released, and then George Lucas, it was Steven Spielberg, went ham on changing certain things that just didn't need to be changed and adding some CGI elements to it that didn't need to be there. That made absolutely no sense either. Like, I remember the beginning of the movie, like E.T. was booking it like away from the federal agents that were chasing him. Like, how is this man booking it? Like, he's got legs that are this short. Like, how is he like booking it across the field? And then, the CGI walkie-talkies that replaced the rifles when the kids were on their bike chase. That was a very big one that people were oddly upset about. I mean, I get it in a sense that why would the federal agents have rifles when it's kids that they're after, unarmed kids. So I get that, but at the same time, that's what it was in the movie. I'm kind of a purist with movies from the 80s and even just old movies in general, even like the Star Wars movies and all that. It's like, let the movie be as it was and don't add all these like weird, ridiculous things that Spielberg and Lucas love to add after the fact.
Yeah, because your story is similar to like my story in a way. Like I wasn't born when Return of the Jedi came out, but my family on my mom's side is very military based. So my grandfather is U.S. Marine or U.S. Air Force. Sorry, my uncle / godfather, like in the earlier part of the show, he's Marine Corps. So they were very strictly based. Like there were certain things that the girls couldn't do. There were certain things that the boys couldn't do. That type of thing. Like my mom wasn't allowed to play the drums, and because what my grandmother said is girls don't play drums. Well, my mom really wanted to play it, so she had my sister play it in high school because that's something that she wasn't able to do. And also, my grandmother is from Portugal. So, I mean, there's that side. Not only do you have cultural, you have military base, you have all these things. And the reason why I bring that up is because they never really went to the movies ever, like maybe once or twice. And one of the movies that they went to go see was Return of the Jedi. And the only reason why they went to go see it is because of one of my younger uncles. He wanted to see it. And it was the last movie that they saw as a family together, the six of them together in general before my uncle went to the Marine Corps.
Gotcha.
So in a way, and they never went to go see a movie after that. So in a way, it kind of like holds that to there too, to where it kind of holds that memorable. I mean, Star Wars shirt, Star Wars tattoo. So it's just family based. So I completely understand and what you're saying in regards to, you know, Lucas did not need to do the changes that he did. He just chose to do it.
Yeah,
it wasn't needed at all. So
nobody was asking for it.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, of course, speaking of movies, now it's time to go into our next transition where, of course, you have Justin, you and myself try to sell you guys a movie out of the top 5. And, of course, let's go ahead and get started.
Hello there, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and children.
All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and get set up. All right, my good sir. And with this, of course, everybody may or may not know, we do not tell each other the movie that we chose. We do it through a specific algorithm, so we don't know what movie the other person is trying to sell. So with that, again, the main concept is to pick a movie from the top 5 list of 1982, the ones that we have not seen yet. However, understanding that Justin is a guest, he has free roam. Now, should Justin ever become a co-host, that will be a different story. Yes. So he would be pertain to the same rules as everyone else. Like, for example, Lee and myself, we try to not pick movies that we've seen or famous movies that we've seen, as we try to pick movies we've never seen before, because that's the whole point of selling you a movie. The whole point of being able to tell you about a movie that we saw with our very own eyes for the first time. And this is why we think that movie is the best movie of that year. So with that in mind, Justin, I went first for the toys and the back in time. So this time it's you, my friend, that's going first.
All right. I will preface this by saying I have to dip out in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to keep this a little bit shorter than 3 minutes, just so I can get it going and move on to the next press release I have. So here we go.
So let's do a minute apiece, okay?
All right. Let's go for it.
All right. 3, 2, 1, and go.
All right, so I think it's clear to say that I went for E.T., and the reason I went for E.T. is because it is the perfect movie. I still think to this day it is the perfect movie, and there are tons of reasons for it. Number one is the fact that anyone in the family can watch it and enjoy it. There's so many different genres within the movie. We have adventure, we have action, we have mystery, we have horror. The story of a coming-of-age tale with a boy and his best friend. We have the fact that one of the only original rides that are still at Universal Studios to this day is the E.T. adventure. And it's still there for a reason. And the reason it's still there is the fact that it is the perfect movie that everyone can enjoy. And just like going to Universal Studios, where you can enjoy it as an entire family and all the kids can love it, the adults can love it, that's what E.T. is. And there's so many amazing quotes. It's a great movie. Go see
it. Maybe we should keep it to a minute apiece.
Yeah, it's challenging.
It is challenging. All right, so we'll go with mine. And 3, 2, 1. All right, so with this, I actually went with a very random movie. I actually went with An Officer and Gentleman. Justin, just let me know when the time is done. So Officer and Gentleman, of course, was directed by Taylor Hackford, who actually did Ray with Jamie Foxx, Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves, Al Pacino, and Charlize Theron. So he directed those movies. Of course, it was written by Douglas Day Stewart, who did The Blue Lagoon and Scarlet Letter as well, if you remember those movies. The stars are Richard Gere, young Richard Gere, Pretty Woman, Runaway Bride, Deborah Winger, and David Keith. Basically, this is about a naval school gentleman who goes into school to be a Navy officer, meanwhile falling in love with a woman, or what they call the ladies or the women in the area. Very that they just want to marry a naval officer. So it's very much a love story at that. Crap, time's running out. It's a great movie. I think you guys should go see it, and I'm out of time.
Done. Yep.
Dang,
Man, that is challenging. Yeah.
Man. All right. So I know you have to head out. So if you want to head out now, then I'll go ahead and do the closer for everybody. But first off, I just want to say, Justin, thank you so much for coming on. And before you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you again.
All right. Thanks again for having me. As always, man, always a blast doing this show with you. So thank you. You can check me out, check my music out at tothestarswereturn.bandcamp.com. Any streaming platform, the album goes live at midnight tonight. So check it out. If you want a sneak peek of it at 9 o'clock, tune in to nightride.fm. I'm doing an exclusive interview. We're going to be playing some songs that have not been released yet. So go on in, check it out. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it, and I will see you next time.
Justin, been a pleasure. Thank you, my friend. You have a good night.
Likewise, sir. You as well.
Bye. All right. And with that, I would like to thank everybody who's tuned in for tonight. Of course, again, to help us out, hit subscribe, hit that like button, leave us comments no matter what area. Again, this is the last live show that we're doing because from this point forward, everything will be pre-recorded and can only be found on YouTube. So if you like Justin, if you like seeing him as a co-host, subscribe to our YouTube channel because then that's the only way that you'll be able to be notified mostly and actually watch the video. So what do you think about who sold the movie the best? Was it me? Was it Justin? Is there any of those in the top 5 that you like better than the movies that we picked? Also, is there any movie in 1982 that you loved and that you enjoyed? Just let us know in the comments. And as always, if there's a random year, doesn't matter, 1930s to last year, that you want us to see us cover, 1960s, 1970s, 2002 maybe, just let us know in the comments because we'd love to do that year for you. And as always, if you are an independent movie producer, director, we'd love to have you on the show, just like how we've done with Justin, former guest TJ, as well as Peter. We want to be able to pick your brain about your creativity, about your movies, because we'd love to have you on the show and make people aware of your projects, make people aware of your movies, your hard work, your dedication, because it's all about creativity. And with that in mind, again, we can't thank you guys enough for being part of the show. We love you all and have a wonderful night.